Thank you very much. Further debate, the member for Thornhill.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Once again, I'm apologizing for my raspy voice today. Of course, this is something that we should be discussing here because we're the ones who set an example for all of Ontario. And I'm reminded of sort of the difference in culture if a woman has been raped, that it wasn't that long ago that nobody would want to admit they were raped. Certainly parents didn't want people to know their daughter had been raped. They felt that nobody would want to associate with her or possibly marry her. And it was also a huge taboo. And we went from that to much more openness, not enough, but much more openness, but certainly in the medical field where doctors will even ask women now when they're doing a case history or seeing a woman for the first time, they'll even ask sometimes, you know, have you ever experienced any, you know, traumas of a sexual nature? They'll ask it sort of in leading terms. But I don't think doctors will necessarily ask a woman if they've ever miscarried a child or you know, things like that, unless she's trying to get pregnant. Then they sort of want to know the case history and want to know if it's an at-risk pregnancy. But there are special rooms in emergency rooms in all our hospitals for women who've been raped with special information and set aside. And you would hope that the hospitals would be much more understanding, but I have a feeling that they're not, Mr. Speaker, because they're under incredible budgetary strain to separate a woman who's given birth to a stillborn child from the other women who've given birth to healthy children. That you could just imagine the mother still needs the same health care delivery as a woman who's delivered a healthy child. She still delivered a baby, there could still be complications, and she still needs to be taken care of. And we would hope, Mr. Speaker, that the resources can be put in place and that we could do something to ensure that the resources are in place if they're not in place everywhere. I'm going to just say a little bit about my culture and the Jewish culture. Not everybody follows it, of course, but basically you're not pregnant until you're past your first term, because it was the understanding that so many women miscarried in that first trimester that you wouldn't tell people that you were even pregnant, and if people would even ask you, would sort of say, well, it's not 3 months yet, so we're not even going to talk about it. Certainly observant families and even many secular Jewish families, they won't hold baby showers, they won't decorate the nursery, they'll order it. It's sort of like a registry when you're getting married and you order dishes and things like that, that they'll order everything, they'll have everything ready to be delivered, and they'll have a relative or friend at the house to have everything delivered when the woman is in the hospital and they get the phone call that everything's okay. Because it's tragedy, obviously, if a baby does not survive the birth or has some kind of medical complications that doesn't live very long. But that tragedy is exacerbated by the mother and father having to come home to see all the clothes and nursery set up and everything set up. Of course, it's not always practical, and my father always talks about how, you know, my mother wouldn't want to have anything in the house, and she had 4 children, and he would be left scrambling because he'd have to go and, you know, get everything, especially for the first child. She didn't have anything, and he said, I'm bringing a woman home with a baby. Of course, in those days, they kept you in the hospital for a week, so that left all your relatives time to repair things at home for you. My mother had a little brother when she was about 4 years old who had a hole in his heart today that would be easily repairable. But my grandparents were told there's nothing we can do. He's going to die in 2 weeks, and you shouldn't bring him home. You know, this way, just tell people he died, and we'll just take care of it from here on. Well, my grandmother wouldn't hear that. She took the baby home, and he lived for 2 weeks. And because he hadn't been circumcised yet, he couldn't have a proper burial. So my grandfather had to take a shovel and bury him. So it's really heartbreaking. I never talk about it, but it is very heartbreaking. Sorry, between my hoarse voice and I'm choked up, it's not a good combination. We all know of somebody who's lost a baby from SIDS, from sudden infant death syndrome, and the famous, oh, thank you so much, sweetie. It's okay, thanks. Very sweet. that, celebrity Marla Shapiro, Dr. Marla Shapiro in Toronto, became a spokesperson because she was interviewed. She lost one of her children to sudden infant death syndrome, and she went on to have a career, basically, in the public forum, speaking out not just about that, but about women's health advocacy and just general, became a TV spokesperson on City TV. And she's a regular. She got her own, ended up with her own talk show on health issues. And I think that was a very brave thing for her to do, because when she did it, very few people were able to, like, I'm not even able to talk about somebody I never even met, but to go on TV and in the public forum, and she helped so many people by doing that. So kudos to her and for all the great work that she's done. And I think that our healthcare professionals are programmed and trained to deal with healthy babies, and they're uncomfortable as well when, and they just want to see it end, because it's painful for them as well. And you can certainly imagine the healthcare staff having to spend the hours and getting to know the parents, only to not have the child survive the delivery. So, of course, we all want to do what we can to raise awareness. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.